Did you know that vermiculations is a word used to describe the back pattern, the coloration and unique pattern design on the back of a brook trout? It's worm-like vermiculations spread out across the dark back of a brook trout, and I mentioned dark. That's a characteristic of char because brook trout, they're really related to the Arctic char. They're part of the genus group Char. So they have the red dots with the blue halos around them. They have light spotting with dark body, and they're a cold water species. Char, they favor very cold waters with lots of dissolved oxygen, very well oxygenated, clean, pristine, clean, cold water. And these are all characteristics of char, hence why brook trout are part of the genus Char. And early naturalists, or as you call them, the early way, like long time ago, the early fish enthusiasts and naturalists, and the early scientific discoveries of these fish, the, these earlier people studying and learning about the brook trout, they couldn't help but notice the beautiful orange colorations that these fish sometimes displayed. Just like lake trout, they're in the group genus Char. They're char, so they spawn in the fall. So brook trout, they spawn in September through November. The males, they can take on they can display these really unique colorations, and they can get really bright orange on their belly side. The earlier discoveries of these fish led to the name the autumn orange trout. Because the male brook trout can get so bright orange on their belly. There's some other really unique characteristics of brook trout are like the cool, like white strippings along their fins, the tips of their fins. They get the white, really neat, unique white color on the tips of their fins. They have the red dots, blue halos, the vermiculate, the worm-like pattern on their backs. They're just a really unique looking fish species. They're Mother Nature's most sensitive fish species out there. And believe it or not, the true trout, like rainbow trout, brown trout, they're true trout. They're lighter colored bodies with dark spots versus char or light colored spotting with dark body, dark background. And true trout can survive in warmer temps. They can true trout, real trout, like rainbow trout, brown trout can actually live in bodies of water and streams and ponds that are warmer than 60 degrees and probably probably aren't as clean as and pristine as the brook trout and lake trout waters. Brook trout, just like that of lake trout, Arctic char, char in general, they're Mother Nature's radar for pollution and for lack of dissolved oxygen and for warming of the water. If you have a lake stream that's warming too quickly and there's not enough dissolved oxygen in it, and it could devastate a brook trout fishery just like that by the snap of my fingers. And brook trout, man, they require those real deep, cold basin type lakes and ponds, and pretty much why brook trout and brook trout, they're native to the New England states. They're native to the eastern United States, the northeastern United States, pretty much. Well, from Georgia north, from the state of Georgia all the way up to New England to Canada and the eastern hemisphere, the eastern part of the northeastern part of the United States and up into Canada. From Georgia up along the east coast, brook trout are native to that part of the region. They're native to Maine, and the United States was formed by the receding glaciers, right? That this is no, everyone knows this. The glaciers, as they thawed and receded, as the glaciers were doing the thing, thawing and moving and receding and eroding. They were carving out the landscape, carving out the geography, and making really high elevation mountain streams. They were leaving the receding glaciers were leaving mountain streams behind, and the receding glaciers carved out valleys and areas for brooks, streams in general, and obviously eventually we had lakes and ponds formed by the receding glaciers, the melting and thawing of the glaciers. And as the world was forming, and as the northeastern part of the United States was forming and developing, be designed by the receding glaciers and by God. When He formed the earth, He made mountain streams and ponds and lakes that were pristine and cold and pollution free, and were loaded with rainbow smelt and other small minnows, and there was phytoplankton and in these bodies of water that, and I'm naming off food items for the brook trout. Just like what I mentioned last week, lake trout, they do very well. They grow longer. They have longer growing times, and they grow bigger, larger trophy size if there's a large population of smelt, of rainbow smelt. But just like the lake trout will eat whitefish, cisco, other minnows, phytoplankton, any type of like algae, phytoplankton, insects. So will the brook trout. The brook trout eat insects, smelt, shiners, minnow, any type of small fish. Very And what's really unique about brook trout, they're a lot like the lake trout, in that if the brook trout are in a body of water that has temps that don't exceed 68, the highest recorded temp in lakes and ponds where brook trout were still living and thriving and doing okay was like 68 degrees. But at a degree above 68 degrees, it could choke them out. The brook trout could suffocate. The pretty much the warmer the water, the less dissolved oxygen, the less oxygenated, the more pollutant, the more algae and stuff grow, and the more pollutants, the less less insects, less other fish species for that matter. So pretty much the brook trout, they need a body of water with lots of rainbow smelt. So why the brook trout do so well in the state of Maine is because Maine has a lot of pristine, cold, deep, cold basin like lakes and ponds that hold large population of rainbow smelt and other fish species that they can eat, and so forth, so on. And the brook trout that actually feed mostly on smelt will grow larger quicker. And those are going to be your trophy brook trout. Brook trout that predominantly feed on insects will always stay somewhat smallish. Those are your 6 to 12 inch brook trout living in your brooks, your streams, and your mountain streams and brooks that people will take the trout worms and their little spin cast rods, trout worms too, to go brook trout fishing. Hence the name brook trout. So brook trout do well in very cold, pristine, well oxygenated mountain streams, and very cold, pristine, pollution free, smelt ridden like waters. We can catch another brook trout. Everybody smash that like button for me. Could you drop some comments? Well, let us know how your fishing's going this winter. Let us know if you've caught any big brookies so far this winter. And definitely click the like button. Subscribe to Spikes and Gills if you haven't already. We'd greatly appreciate extra support and follow everybody. All right, see you next time. The favorable temperatures for brook trout though are between 50 and 60 degrees. And what's really unique, really, is your like scientists, biologists, inland fish, the Maine Department of Inland Fish and Wildlife biologists, so they they can really tell if a certain pond or lake isn't healthy anymore, isn't really doing so hot. They can tell if a certain lake or pond is ridden with pollutants and doesn't have enough dissolved oxygen. And they can really tell a lot about a fishery, about the health of a body of water if it once harbored a population of brook trout, and then all of a sudden one day that brook trout fishery was wiped out. Oh, big instant red flag for the Department of Fish, Wildlife biologists and scientists and environmentalists and stuff. They want they they would definitely look into that body of water and figure out what's going on. Typical sizes that you want to look for in different types of bodies of water, like in streams, brooks and streams. Your average length size for brook trout will be anywhere from like 3 to 12 inches. An exceptional brook trout caught from a mountain stream or brook would be 12 or more inches. And your lakes and ponds, you can expect to, if you're a fisherman wanting to target the brook trout, or just you're here listening and watching and stuff and just want to learn. All right, do you run more than 5 trail cameras that run off of AA batteries? Maybe you run 10, 12 or more cameras that run off of AA batteries. Are you sick and tired of burning a hole in the pocket, of constantly needing to buy batteries after batteries after batteries? I'm here to tell you, with this X60 Pro Max Guard Pro trail camera with the rechargeable lithium-ion battery pack, once you charge this battery pack full, you'll easily get 3 or 4 plus months more run time with this camera than you would with conventional AA batteries you'd buy from the store. So you could easily get 6 plus months of run time on a full charge. So never have to break the bank again, never have to burn a hole in your pocket spending every bit of spare cash you got on AA batteries ever again. Don't worry about that. This X60 Pro Max camera with the solar panel pack is going to save you a ton of money, especially when I tell you today I'm offering you 15% discount code to get 15% off your purchase from the Guard Pro website. Go to the description below this video and you can click on the link to go to the Guard Pro website. Don't forget to copy the 15% off code that I'm offering you in my description below. Copy that 15% off code in the description below before you click on the link to go to the Guard Pro website to choose what camera you want. You could choose the Wi-Fi camera. You could choose any model cellular trail camera that they have. You can go to the website, pick and choose and browse all the cameras that they offer and choose whatever camera. So go to the description below the video, copy the 15% off code that you need. Click the Guard Pro website link to go into the Guard Pro website, browse the cameras, choose whichever cameras you want to purchase, and get 15% off your purchase today with the link in the 15% off code in the description below. Your average length sizes in ponds and lakes are like anywhere from 12 to 20 inches. An exceptional large brook trout, trophy class size brook trout, would be anywhere from like 20 to 26 inches in length, weigh in somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds. Your 26 plus inch length brook trout would weigh closer to the 10 plus pound range, and your 14 to 18 inch brook trout will weigh anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds, depending on how big the girth is on them fish. Hey, listen closely. Are you guys there? Hello? Anybody there? Can you hear me? Excuse me. A cool fact I have to share with all of you is the world record brook trout caught. It was sometime back in the early 1900s. In the early 1900s, the world record brook trout caught was out of the Nipigon River, the Nipigon River. It was 14 and a half pounds, everybody. A 14 and a half pound brook trout. That's impressive. That is a monster brook trout. The environment changing drastically, really quickly, can wipe out a brook trout fishery, a lake trout fishery. It's just, yeah, the warming of the body of the water very quickly, the depletion of the dissolved oxygen very quickly, and the killing off of food and stuff would wipe out any fish for that matter. And so the debate here versus native versus stocked. So, okay, you got to think here for a moment. If once this pristine northern parts of Maine, mountainous parts of Maine, was once untouched and was just pristine and clean and free of pollution, and there was brook trout in every body of water that you'd probably come across in the mountains at one point in time, one time or another. Then the logging industry came into play, and logging roads were built up and around and all through the mountains and all through the wilderness of Maine that once was untouched and undisturbed wilderness. Now it's just all of a sudden disturbed, and there's trucks and cars riding these roads up in the mountains. There's humans coming and going. There's human disturbance almost anywhere in the state of Maine now at this point in time, unfortunately. Brook trout, they're being raised and bred and raised to be released into certain ponds and lakes and brooks and rivers in hopes to restore the once native, healthy population of brook trout that Maine was well known for, that New England was known for many eons ago. Yes, this is a very highly debatable topic, and we've got people, we got the right side and the left side here, folks. But if you're anything like me and love to fish and love to ice fish, fly fish, love to fish, period, in general, it's nice to be able to get onto a lake or pond in a canoe, or nice to wade into a stream or river with my waders and fly fishing and be able to catch a nice big fat plump brook trout on a dry fly. Whether it was stocked or native, does it really matter if the brook trout was stocked or native? They look alike. They have all the same colorations and patterns, and the vermiculation, the worm-like, striated worm-like patterns on the back, the red dots and the blue halos and the yellow dotting and the white tipped fins, and the male brook trout, there's the spawning male brook trout, developing that bright orange belly, and sometimes the hook jaw. I mean, really, does it really matter if they're stocked or not? Pretty much, you have these fish biologists that are fascinated with fish, with all fish species for that matter. I'm lost for words. I'm tongue tied. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but you have their passion. There we go. You got these passionate biologists, fish biologists they would love, that can't stand seeing their beloved fish species being wiped out. Uh, they'd rather see the fish thrive, see the fish populations be at a healthy carrying capacity in these lakes and ponds, so that there could be sustained fishing action for you and I and our children for years to come down the roads. Okay. Oh wait, tongue tied here. I'm gathering my thoughts, how I want to go about this. So last week we were talking about lake trout. Lake trout spawning. They don't dig into the gravel and dig out fish beds or redds, as in this case with the female brook trout. They dig The female, they dig out gravel depressions. And the time of year that the brook trout spawn, reproduce, or the time of year where they're spawning and laying eggs is from September to November. September, October, November. This 3-month window of spawning. The female brook trout, they'll dig depressions in the gravelly, sandy bottoms, known as redds, and then the males will fertilize the eggs. If the females are laying their eggs in these gravelly depressions that the female dug out with her fins or her like, you got it's the caudal peduncle, the caudal fin, the tail fin. Getting all scientific on you guys. The caudal fin, known as the tail of the fish, the tail fin, the caudal fin. Just up from that's the caudal peduncle. The caudal peduncle is where the caudal fin comes off of. Then you have your anyways, the caudal, you can picture this, right? You can obviously search this on YouTube, Google this, and see videos of this happening. The female brook trout will dig out, scrape away with her body and her fins the gravelly sand bottom and make a depression in it for her to lay her eggs. And the male brook trout will fertilize the eggs. Then they incubate until early spring. The eggs hatch in early spring, and the spawn-in time, the September through November, they're getting the fact that it's time for reproduction. The hormones are raging in the body of the fish. It's allowing a more production of these color pigments that increase the brightness of the orange belly and increase the blue dotting and the red dots, the blue halos, and the whites on them, and it also increases the growth of their hook jaw, and it makes the fish look bad. For a better lack of words, it makes the fish look badass, and hence makes them intimidating to their male rivals. How neat is that? I mean, that's awesome. And historically, though, the brook trout, they inhabited, or in other words, occupied thousands upon thousands of mountain rivers and lakes and ponds in the northeastern part of the United States and all the way up to Labrador and Quebec, Canada. They're a lot of times known as North America's iconic fish species, cold water fish species. They're a true favorite among the fishermen and women. That because of their unique coloration, their beautiful eye-catching, eye-popping coloration and patterns on their bodies, and just the fact that they live in some of the remote, pristine, and uninhabited parts of the world, for that matter. It's just they're amazing. The brook trout, they really truly are. So it's no wonder that that people will travel from all over the world to come to New England, to Maine for that matter, to Labrador, Canada, or Quebec, Canada, to try to catch a big trophy brook trout weighing over 5 pounds, measuring like 24 upwards of 28 inches, weighing anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds. And yes, there's many of these brook trout that are caught year after year after year.